There are moments of Justin Bieber's career where it felt like he had the most manufactured pop image, and then there are moments when it felt like all of that facade just kind of goes away. And he's a little bit messy, and he's a little bit unpredictable, but also really, really free. Bieber dropped a surprise album last week. It's called Swag. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. It is time for a State of the Union on Justin Bieber. Emilie Hanskamp is here. Natalie Harmsen is here. Reanna Cruz is here. Hello to all of you. Welcome.
Hello. Hello.
It's about to get swaggy, right? Was that how you wanted the show to start?
Swag, swag, swag.
Yeah.
On you.
Thank you so much for starting us off there. Okay, I think the first thing we need to do is actually hear some of the new record. Let's play some. Personally vibing. That song is called Butterflies. It's from this new Justin Bieber album, Swag. Natalie, I'm going to start with you because we are working with different sounds here. Maybe sounds that we haven't heard from Justin Bieber. How are you feeling about the sonic palette that we got on Swag?
I think it's very experimental and unconventional for Justin Bieber. We've never really heard him go into this sort of lo-fi mode. And I think, if you are familiar with his past, he comes from the pop machine. We're used to these big pop hits. And this record really isn't giving that. It's giving, this is the kind of album I've always wanted to make. It's a return to R&B, which R&Bieber, we know that he loves R&B music.
That's the mode, yes.
And I would consider this album to be an older cousin or a cooler cousin to Journals. So that's where I'm at with this. We're getting a vibe.
You dropped Journals. I think, like, before we even continue on this conversation, I think it's valuable to maybe just like orient people to what Journals was, because, you know, in the middle of all these like gigantic pop albums that Bieber put out, he put out this one record called Journals, and you can kind of tell, like, oh, this is his favorite stuff to do. This is a man who wants to sort of just like go on his little vocal runs. He wants to sing about his wife a little bit. You know, like that's the mode that we prefer him in. And I think like there's something really nice about that. And then you're getting a lot of that on this record. On this record, he's working with producers like Dijon, like MKG, who are a pretty big deal in the sort of alternative pop world. Just to sort of do a bit of a vibe check here, here's a bit of MKG's song, Are You Looking Up?
Probably just wait on somebody to give you life. The heaviest weight on a miracle to cut the sack. So are you looking up? You're asking why.
Enjoying Reanna Cruz with the air guitar there. Okay, let's hear I think what should be the song of the summer. This is Justin Bieber with Daisies, also co-written and produced by MKG.
Blowing kisses like will you catch him at night? I'm Cupid with arrows, babe, I'm just shooting my shot. If I could get in, drop me a pin, hop in up and come over. Don't wanna be friends, just in the skin, I wanna get closer. The way you got me all in my head.
Emilie Hanskamp, the look on your face says...
I didn't mean to do that. I caught myself in it.
Emilie Hanskamp's like, it's a no from me, dog. Is it working for you?
No,
Tell me.
you know what? This song of the album, I think, is my favorite. But, you know, it's basically a McGee song. So I think Natalie mentioned the word vibe. I think currently we're in a time where people just are going to music for vibe. And this album feels like a great example of vibe tourism to me, where Bieber is, you know, always been a great curator of collaborators of the moment. And so now this album gives us a great idea of, you know, who Bieber likes.
Yeah.
He's a fan of the McGee sound, the Dijon sound. A song like Yukon, you know, Carter Lang's SZA producer, basically an interchangeable SZA song. So yeah, we now know what he likes, but this album does not tell us anything more about like who he is and what his sound really is, you know, this many years into his career. So I feel like this album came out, we were hoping it would either prove, you know, that he's crashing out, he's not doing well, or it would be this pop titan return to form. It is not that, and it's kind of neither. It's landing in the middle to me, and I think that in this vibe tourism, we kind of land in this kind of limbo state of, it's a great produced album, but what is it? Who is Bieber? It's nice to listen to, but like, who are you, bro?
I do think to me, this album gives us a little bit more of who Bieber is than the last two albums. Like I think that's what's interesting about it.
Yeah.
So that's just how obscured and hidden he is.
Right.
Is that like even at this place, you're like, we're still scratching the surface.
Right. It's the guise of vulnerability, I think, that we're getting here, where it's like, I'm being very vulnerable because here's like a lo-fi demo. But like, what are you saying? That it's hard to grow up in the public eye? Absolutely. Old news, babe.
We have heard that mode, Bieber. Rihanna, what about you? When you listen to this album, how is it landing for you?
I like it, honestly. I am enjoying swag. I think Justin Bieber is one of those artists that like has been consistently around throughout my entire life. Like I'm on the younger side. I feel like I grew up with Justin Bieber, and I've connected to some of his singles before, but this is the first time that I really have like locked into a Justin Bieber album, it feels like. And I enjoy it. It feels like it's cohesive top to bottom. I think that's my number one kind of checkbox when it comes to like big ticket pop records, is like, is it cohesive? And the answer is yes. I like this sound that he's doing because I love McGee and I love Dijon, so it feels interchangeable. And I think Justin Bieber is really at this point in his career notable for his vocals, and his vocals on this record are pretty great. I think he's able to kind of meld to whatever sound he's working with. And on this one, he kind of uses this anti-pop, like McGee sound, where it's like he's in the background, right? Like it's like he's standing in the corner of a room and like projecting. I like that a lot. And so it's landing pretty well for me. For the first time since like Purpose, I've like connected with Justin Bieber, which feels kind of weird.
Purpose, you've been off the Justin Bieber machine for a little while then. So welcome back. It's nice to have you here. I do think that like there's something interesting about when Bieber tries to be in this mode, the non-pop titan mode, because he doesn't seem to have the support of the entire infrastructure of the industry. Like usually when Justin Bieber's dropping an album, it's an event. You see the videos coming out. There's like a whole pre-release thing. The fact that this surprise album came out, it's not like a Beyonce surprise rollout, whereas like the vinyl was ready, the merch was ready, everything was ready, and then it arrived and it's here. He dropped this, and then he's like posting pictures from vacation, and there was maybe a couple of billboards. Talk to me about the rollout of this album, Natalie. How are you feeling about it?
I was kind of pleasantly surprised by it because it's been 4 years since Justice, right? It's been a minute. He's been gone. People have been speculating when he's going to make a comeback. Every year on New Year's Eve, I'm like, this is going to be the year, guys, new Justin Bieber album. I'm not even a big Justin Bieber fan, but like it's just been something.
It sounds like you're checking for it a little bit, but okay.
It's just been something I feel that's kind of like in the cultural zeitgeist. Like, when is he going to return? So I think the fact that he is someone who has come from this pop machine and has made this really left turn of, you know what, you're not going to get a lead single from me. I'm not going to be teasing things on TikTok. I'm not going to go the route that I did on with Yummy, where I was promoting the hell out of that song and telling my fans to go stream it and begging to get it to #1, right? Yeah. So to me, this really signifies that he is putting out an album with songs that he really wants to make. This is the kind of music that I want to try on and see if it works for me. I don't really care if you like it or not, is the messaging that I'm getting with this rollout. So I think it's just kind of mirroring that narrative that we're getting.
When I see this rollout, what's clear for me, Emilie, is that like it is not a Scooter Braun rollout, right?
No,
so like Bieber's been managed the entirety of his career by Scooter Braun, and then last week he got the news that they agreed to pay Scooter $31 million to settle something, and they have not worked together for some time. And then you kind of like see this album roll out, and the fact that there's no Scooter on this. How do you see that showing up in this moment that Bieber's in?
Yeah, I mean, we've been talking about the pop machine.
Yeah.
We are hearing some sources coming out who are saying things like, this is the first album where Scooter Braun is not essentially kind of breathing down Justin's neck. And I think the result of that is an album that you listen through that isn't desperately trying to land on a hit. And I don't say that as a criticism, as someone who maybe hasn't been the biggest fan or connector of Justin Bieber's music in the past.
Okay, Emily, we've heard. Yeah.
This is the first album where I'm like, okay, like I feel like it's getting closer and on the right path. And I feel like it's because he isn't desperately trying to land on that Scooter Braun hit. And I think it's also why, you look at the album cover and it's not his face on it, where all of his other than journals. Journals aside, it's not his face. It's almost like he is trying to position himself out of the frame in like a literal sense. Rihanna talked about, even at a production level, kind of being more in the background versus the foreground in terms of the album cover and his image and how he wants to center that or not center that. So I think that we're getting closer and closer to an honest Bieber, or like the capital T truth of like who Bieber is as an artist. I just don't know that we've landed at the destination yet, but I think he's on the right track.
Yeah, the few images that you do see, Rihanna, are like, you see this sort of Bieber kind of like a little bit to the side of the frame, way out of focus, and behind him you see Hailey Bieber and holding their kid because he just became a dad last year, and you go like, that's a pretty like Mr. Morale kind of cover, which out of all references to make, but there's something to be said about this record attempting to change the narrative of who Justin Bieber is, or like maybe reintroduce who he is. How do you see this record actually maybe successfully doing that?
I think it's doing that pretty well, I would say. I think generally, I feel like the last hits for Justin Bieber to like reach public consciousness were Yummy and Holy. And both of those are kind of rote pop hits. They feel disposable. Even Holy, he's kind of reaching for something grand, but it doesn't really land and doesn't stick the landing. This feels like a push for like real artistry, and I agree that it's like a step in the right direction for like establishing like who Justin Bieber is, what he wants to sound like, and what he wants to do. And I think like this album serves as kind of like a piece of content that kind of like switches the perspective on everything that's been going on in his life recently, because like on social media he's been like what we call like crashing out, right? Just like posting whatever, and it's like okay, like, you listen to the album and he's like, like, I actually do love my wife, guys. Like, I love my kid. Like, we're going to get through this. Like, I haven't been doing so well, but you know what? Like, I'm okay. And I think, like, music can really serve as a supplemental element to what's going on in somebody's life, obviously. And it's like, you listen to Swag and you're like, oh, okay, like, I'm getting, like, the full picture of Justin Bieber, not just what I see on social media.
Yeah, when you say the idea of like sort of seeing Bieber online crashing out, I think like the most recent famous example of this became a viral moment, right? Which was like Bieber talking to paparazzi on the beach. We legally have to play the clip, so let's roll it.
I'm a dad, I'm a husband. You're not getting it. It's not clocking to you. It's not clocking to you that I'm standing on business, is it?
We're on the sidewalk, Justin.
I don't give a if you're on the sidewalk. I'm a human being. You're standing around my car. At the beach.
At the beach.
At the beach of all places.
I mean, the delivery. Listen. This is an angry man who's obviously like, hey, they're harassing his family, but also don't harass Justin Bieber's family. But also, you're going to get a beautifully delivered rebuke. That is going to instantly kind of go viral, and that's what we heard there. So, and then you have a track off this album, off Swag. That is kind of, rolling this idea of like standing on business, but it's not exactly a full song. Let's have a listen.
I like that you pronounce business. Usually when I say standing on business, I say standing on business. I don't say I'm standing on business, bro. I think that's why he ain't leave right there. You were pronunciating every word. You can't pronunciate every word when you're doing that. I'm standing on business. Yeah. You standing on business.
Yeah, you're right.
At the beach. Listen, that's Bieber talking to comedian Drewski, and it's a bit of an interlude on that record. Natalie, what do you make of the fact that like he was like, you know what, the album's about to come out. Let's find a space for standing on business. Let's find a space for it's not clocking to you to sort of be a part of this rollout. Does that surprise you?
It doesn't. I think it was a very intentional and kind of smart choice on his part to do it because, this has been memed and been repeated for weeks now. Everyone, I think, has heard or has been repeating what he said. And I think it's taking this moment that's very fraught and very tense. If you know anything about Justin Bieber and the paparazzi, he is their biggest hater. Like, do not put them in the same room together because it will not end well. And I think during this moment, a lot of people were kind of thinking, oh, is he doing okay? Is he going to crash out? Is he okay mentally? And is he going to be fine? Yeah. And I think this is almost a reclamation of that narrative and saying, hey, I'm in on the joke too. I can laugh at myself. You're laughing at me, but I'm also laughing with you. And so in that sense, it's kind of saying, hey, no need to worry, everything's going to be fine.
Yeah, there's a sort of an ownership of what was perceived as a crash out, Emily, right? The idea of like, okay, you see this moment, it feels off the cuff and maybe a little bit out of control. By the time that you go, okay, someone had to make the creative decision to say, this is going to be a part of the album. How do you want to include as part of the album? This is how it comes out. There's something considered about that says, no, I was not actually as like off my rocker as you thought I was. I was just kind of like reacting in that moment, but we can all enjoy this together. Do you buy it? Do you sort of go like, yeah, Bieber's actually like doing okay in this moment?
I believe that Bieber is, like all of us, on the path to doing okay. I think that our demand that a pop star, especially those who crash out, as we've been saying, either be crashing out or completely enlightened and healed, and on the other side is a very unrealistic narrative that we impose and apply to these pop stars. Yeah. So I think he's somewhere like a normal human in the middle of that spectrum. He's figuring it out. He's okay, but he's not the best he's ever been, and that's okay.
I think there's something about the fact that like when you strip away the jokes and the memes and this whole like standing on business thing, it's Bieber's been talking about this for a long time. I know that like you mentioned this idea of like, hey, we know you grew up in the public light at a very young age and it was hard, but it's kind of been the through line of the thing that he's been talking about. I just want to play this clip from a few years ago. Here's Bieber talking to Billie Eilish.
It was hard for me being that young and being in the industry and not knowing where to turn, and everyone, telling me they love me and, just turn their back on you in a second. So if she ever needs me, I'm going to be here for her. But I just want to protect her, I don't want her to go through anything I went through. I don't wish that upon anybody.
Rihanna, that's Justin Bieber talking about protecting Billie Eilish because he sort of sees her going through some of the same stuff that he went through. That's about as sincere, I think, as Bieber gets, right? Like in that moment, there's a real vulnerability, there's a real like protectiveness that comes out that says like, this is the one thing that people know about me is how much I've battled with this stuff. How do you think that's informed how we think about him now? Like, do you think he's gonna ever be able to sort of like escape that narrative and form a new one?
Unfortunately, I don't really think so. I kind of pity Justin Bieber in a way. You know what I mean? Like, I pity a lot of child stars for like what they go through, and I think Justin Bieber specifically, like again, like having grown up kind of alongside him, like I remember the press like ripping into him when he was like 13 years old, and it's like, come on, like it I don't know. I feel a connection to him, even though I'm not a believer, because I just have a lot of empathy for somebody that goes through a lot of that. And I think like his empathetic side is, or rather like his vulnerable side is what I feel more empathetic towards, right? Like I don't really particularly feel a connection with like his larger public persona or his music or like other things that he's done. I frankly don't even care really, but I feel a lot of empathy for him first and foremost. And I think this album, because it's so candid and because it's so much of like a state of the union of Justin Bieber, that I feel a connection to him more so than I have in the past, and I feel more connected to Justin Bieber than I previously have.
I think like the thing that I'm reacting to most from this album is that I don't need the album to be successful in order for it to be honest. I think those are two different things, and I think like the attempt at honesty is the thing that I'm maybe reacting to the most. Because you speak about like empathy for Justin Bieber. I just want to play you guys this clip, and just to set the scene here, Bieber is about to jump on stage with Kid Laroi and do the song "Stay," but Bieber is a little bit too drunk to actually make it up the stairs, and so he leans over the railing, holding a microphone. His eyes are closed, and I just want you guys to hear what he sounds like. People should find this clip because like it's actually kind of heartbreaking to watch. Like this idea of like someone get this man a bed and like a tall glass of water and maybe like a really long nap, but also he can hit those notes even though he does not remember the words to that. And there's something like genuinely tragic about watching that, but also magical at the same time. Be like, he has a gift. I hope he sort of figures out the space, to actually like be able to make use of that gift. When you think about his entire career arc, Natalie. And you think about like this idea of how he's been putting all of these reactions on social media and all this honesty on social media. Do you feel like for you, it's making you connect differently to him? Because like I think it's one thing to go like the music's not for me, but I feel like he's trying to humanize himself, and I feel like maybe we've crossed a different threshold and it's kind of beginning to work.
Yeah, I think for a long time, especially like I said, he's been a child star. He's come out of this pop machine. Unlike a lot of his peers, his presence on social media feels very un-PR trained. It feels kind of very loose and very free, maybe at sometimes a little bit frightening. And I feel like this just really shows that he is someone who is in pursuit of honesty, who is still trying to find himself. I mean, he's in his 30s now. He has a kid. Like, these are things that we kind of associate with growing up and being an adult. But I think in a lot of ways, he's showing he's still kind of lost sometimes. And I think that's okay. I think that we as listeners can kind of embrace the fact that he is imperfect and he is a bit messy. And while I'm not someone who's always appreciated his social media presence in the past, I have been paying attention during Swag. I've been seeing the photos that he's been posting on his vacation. I saw that clip he posted the other day about Love Island, and it does make me feel a bit more connected to him than I previously have. So
to that end, let's hear one more song from Swag. Okay, so listen, that's the entire song. Like, the song is just Bieber repeating the words "Dad's love," and at first you're like, we should write more words to the song, Bieber. But I do think it has the effect of 2 minutes later, it starts to feel a little bit like an incantation, a little bit like a meditation, or maybe I'm reading too much into it. I don't know if that's the effect that he actually wanted to accomplish. But to that end, he is trying to do something, which is like bake the idea of him being a husband and a father, and it's not clocking to us, but he's maybe clocking a little bit more to us that he is that. He's baking that in his music. So Emilie, I want to give you a chance to maybe reflect on how he's managed to bring in the identity of fatherhood into his music.
I feel like I'm of two sides with this. Okay. On one side, this idea of humanizing and allowing him to humanize himself. If you think about like a Liam Payne, what we've been talking to, we don't always listen to the moments where artists are actually putting themselves out there and being vulnerable. This is who I am. These are my fears. This is what I'm struggling with. This is how I've evolved. So at one point, I do want to do that, and I do, and I hold that, and I have that empathy and that hope for him. On the other hand, in the pop machine, the narratives that have been created and manufactured around Bieber have always been so shoved down our throats. It's always, there'd be a press cycle around redemption, and the next one is around enlightenment. The next one is around his faith, his family. So I feel at a certain point, the truth must lie somewhere maybe in the middle, where I find these narratives are kind of too forced, too on the nose sometimes. I do believe that he has grown in that fatherhood. He's like integrating into his art and his persona and his life, and that is real. But I find at a certain point, I don't know that just those two kind of pillars, the marriage and, the family man, that is enough to kind of wipe away all the complexities that have come before. So can we hold space for nuance with a pop star of his level? It's difficult to do, but I think that's what we need to do to really appreciate how far he's come and who he is and what he has to offer. It's not one side or the other.
We're going to go around the table with the couple minutes we have left here and sort of imagine the idea that, like, if we did have a proper summer that was a brat summer, in the sense that like it was kind of like everywhere. What is the possibility of us having ourselves a Swag summer? Is that in the cards? Do you hear anything in this album that makes you go, yeah, I think this has legs and longevity and might be still playing, into August, into September? Reanna, I'll start with you.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna hear it like on the radio. I feel like there's potential for a couple songs to go big, but I think largely what this album is going to do is have legs in terms of legitimizing the McGee and Dijon sound. I think it's percolating for a while. I think, last year was a really big year for McGee, blew up, and I think, we're in a Frank Ocean, we're devoid of Frank Ocean.
Frank, come back! Yes.
Somebody needs to fill the void here. And when I hear Yukon and I hear his pitched voice, I'm like, oh, this white boy is the new Frank Ocean right now. So that's the legacy.
That's the nicest thing that anyone's ever said about Justin Bieber.
After Drewski.
Okay, 30 seconds to each of you. Natalie, I'll start with you.
I don't necessarily think it's going to capture the culture in the way that Brat did. I don't think we're going to be getting any cute TikTok dances from Swag, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I do agree with what was said about this legitimizing him and legitimizing the McGee and Dijon sound, because these are really big indie artists. And now the fact that they have the Bieber stamp of approval, I think is kind of going to catapult them into another stratosphere. So I'm excited to see where that goes.
Emily, 20 seconds to you, pal.
20 seconds. Well, I think that Bieber is an example of someone who he's been trying to let us hear his music as loud as we hear his narrative and the tabloids around him. And I think that this album maybe is not the innovative pop moment that we would have wanted. It's not a Brat Summer, but it will allow us to hold him in a space as an artist, almost maybe equally to this center of paparazzi and tabloid fodder. That's what I hope for him.
I'm game for that. My name is Elamin Abdelmahmoud. This show is called Commotion. Hey, we'll be back tomorrow. See you then.